This is the 2022 Ford Ranger XLT. It's the 4x4 SuperCrew configuration, and it's got a few extras. We've got the running boards that are available optionally at time of ordering from the factory. This one also has the auto start-stop removal, which was introduced for the 2022 model year. So if you're not a fan of that start-stop system driving you nuts, you could technically get it done. Now, technically, it is better to do it at the time of ordering from the factory because you can save a couple bucks versus doing it aftermarket instead where you have to pay to get it removed. So your choice there. Steve here, and before we get started unpacking the 2022 Ranger, I do want to give Yorkdale Ford a huge shout out and a thank you for giving me access to this truck to shoot the video for you guys today. Check down in the description below for their contact details, for the build link for this truck, payload details, and things like that. Now, this is going to be a quicker walk around going through everything you need to know about the vehicle. I'm going to highlight differences in the trim levels as we go. Let's go for it. Now, first things first, I gotta say, I do like the base styling of the Ranger. So we do have a few different configuration choices that are available. It's either gonna be the full four-door like what we're looking at here, or it's the SuperCab configuration, and that's the two full doors with the two half doors. And those two half doors would swing the opposite way, rather than swinging your traditional this way. So you've got some choices. The Ranger will come in three different trim levels. So it's either the base XL, the XLT, or you've got the Lariat. So it's a matter of, do you want cloth versus leather seats? And then a few other differences between the trim levels. The XLT and the XL are going to be a regular key fob. So if we take a peek here, let's pull this out of my pocket. Traditional key fob there. So we've got our unlock and our lock button, as well as our horn or a panic alarm, and then a traditional key, so flip style key. In comparison to the Lariat, where it's going to be intelligent access with a push button start instead. And then, like I mentioned, you do have leather seats inside of the Lariat. So which way you go is going to depend on your budget and what features you find important for you. But let's start off with some base exterior styling for the vehicle. We do have our headlamps there, halogen fogs in the XLT. It's going to be an LED fog when you get into the Lariat, but great look overall. We've got this nice Ranger badge right along the very front there. Nice Ford badge with our beautiful grille, active grille shutters there. And then looking down, we do also have two front tow hooks. So you're taking this thing off-road, and it is pretty nice there. Now, looking at the wheels, the Ranger does have a series of different rims, or well, I guess technically, yeah, rims and wheel sizes that are available. The XL is going to have 16-inch tire standard, XLT is going to be 17, and then the Lariat is going to be 18. But series of different options available across the board. And which way you go is going to depend on what you're doing with the truck, because this thing is the 4x4, but it doesn't have the FX4 off-road package. So you could technically get that done at time of ordering from the factory as well if you're going off-roading. But here's the kicker. If you're never planning on going off-road, I'd actually recommend against the FX4 or the FX2, depending on if you're in Canada or the States. And the reason why is because it's actually going to give you beefier tires, so an all-terrain tire instead, and then different shocks. So the downside to that is that it's going to negatively impact your fuel economy. But if you're taking it off-road, it is a really good option. But look at the tires again. Like, these are just your all-terrain tires, but nice amount of tread there. Take a quick peek at the suspension there. And then that's just the base suspension that we're looking at. We do have the option for the Tremor package inside of this, which is going to give us a slightly different look, like a little bit of a meaner look, but it's going to give us improved traction, well, improved traction because we're going to have different tires. We're going to have a completely different suspension system as well. So again, I've said it before, what are you going to do with your truck? Do you want something meaner for off-road purposes or not? This is going to be the regular black platform running board that's going to be standard inside of the vehicle when you order from the factory. But you do have the option of doing aftermarket steps, and the version of the step that you're eligible to get is going to depend on how the rest of the vehicle is configured. You can get a chrome running board, you've got the black platform, and then the Tremor also has a very unique look on top of that. But beautiful look. Now, I'm in Canada, which means that for my fellow Canadians, unfortunately, we can only get the vehicle in the 4x4 configuration. Down in the States, you've got the option for either 4x2 or 4x4. And there's a few other caveats and the differences between Canada and the States. The XL and the XLT in Canada, well, I guess technically the XL is only available in the SuperCab, and the Lariat's only available in the SuperCrew. Down in the States, you guys are pretty much open across the board, but this thing, like I said, very nice. We've got some nice small highlights there. We've got our Ranger badge right along the driver passenger door. You're gonna have a different badge just depending on your trim level. So Lariat is gonna look slightly different. taking a peek along the side here. Fuel, we are a capless system, so just insert, fill up, and you're good to go. Looking at recommended fuel quality is just your regular 87 gas, so regular fuel. You don't need to use a higher premium fuel. Caveat as always, with a lot of Ford vehicles, the horsepower and torque specs that are stated are achieved using a premium fuel. So do you need to use one? Absolutely not inside of this thing, but if you want to get a truer performance out of it, it is recommended to go for higher quality fuel. My personal recommendation is if you're taking this thing off-road, so if you're going to be going rugged off-roading, if you're also looking at potentially towing heavier loads, it might be worth it to look at using a premium fuel instead. Not necessary just because of how crazy the gas prices are right now. Regular 87 is technically all that you need. Take a peek at this. Okay. Base look, so these are going to be your standard cloth seats, what we'll get to in just a second. I want to show you underneath the hood first. So just going to give that a single pull, and let's take a walk. So in order to get underneath the hood, all we have to do, just right in the front there, you can see we've got our little release. We're just going to go to the left, and this is going to be tricky. Up and up. Who said you couldn't do that one-handed? Now the Ranger technically only has one available engine choice, and that's this. So the 2.3 liter EcoBoost engine. Power-wise, this thing is going to be able to push out 270 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque. So a pretty good amount of power, but I mean, you could also look at doing some things aftermarket, ECU flash, which could technically void your warranty depending on where it's done, but if you want better performance, it is available as an option. But this thing still, it's got good performance out of it. Like I said, 270 horsepower is pretty respectable, but we can easily top up fluids if we need to. We can easily check our oil, so really easy to access that. Easy access to the battery as well. And then as you can see, no sort of engine cover inside of this thing whatsoever. Up overhead, though, we do also have our fire shield. So it is nice to know that it is there, but nice, simple. We've got this little plastic part right along the top. Changing bulbs yourself. On the driver's side, easy enough. Passenger side, it's a little bit tight. So if you're handy, you want to do some things yourself, just knowing that specific thing might be a little bit challenging. Not impossible though if you're handy. But looking along the side here as well, really nice. Now, we do have a few different options for, well, I guess technically only one option for towing inside of this thing. So you technically could get the hitch and receiver, things like that, installed aftermarket if you wanted to, but getting it done from the factory means that we're going to be able to tow up to 7,500 pounds inside of this thing. So we've got a receiver there, 4/7 pin, oop, wrong way, there we go, so 4/7 pin there. And then we've got this little guy, and that's going to be the release for the spare tire that's located just underneath the vehicle. So as you can see there, nice look, single tip exhaust off to the right-hand side, and go for a little bit of a stroll underneath. So this is just the standard Ranger underneath. As I mentioned, so we do have the option for that Tremor off-road package if you wanted to go that route, but that's the standard look for the 4x4 Ranger. Still is pretty nice. Now, some things to point out along the back here, we do have a reverse sensing system. We've got different options for technology packages to give us forward sensors as well. Now, because this specific one is the SuperCrew configuration, 4 full doors, that means that we've got a 5-foot box. But take a peek at the dimensions of the bed. So as you can see there, we do have quite a little bit of space back here. Now, the Ranger does have 2 box sizes that are available, and that's going to depend on if you're in the SuperCrew or the SuperCab configuration. So the SuperCab with the 2 full doors and the 2 half doors is going to have a 6-foot box, whereas the SuperCrew configuration is going to have a 5-foot box, and that's standard across the board. So you don't have the option of going different box sizes. If you want the SuperCrew, you're strictly getting the 5-foot box, but still a nice amount of space back here. We do have the option for bed extenders and things like that. So if you need that extra space and you need that extra space in the cab as well, that's an option. But this one, as you can see there, doesn't have any sort of bed or tonneau cover. So either tonneau cover or bed liner or anything like that. So you've got a few different options that are available there as well. So this is just the naked look, but you do have the option for either a drop-in or a spray-in bed liner. Different packages will give you that spray-in bed liner directly from the factory. You could do it aftermarket. Now, if you don't go for the package to get the spray-in liner at the factory, I'd actually recommend aftermarket Line-X. And the reason why is because it's twice as thick as the factory liner and also has a lifetime warranty. But the way that you go for the liner is going to depend on what you're doing with the truck as well. Because if you're going to be transporting gravel and things like that, I'd actually recommend looking at the plastic instead, because it's just easier to sweep it off in comparison. But either way, you'd technically have the option of just spraying it down instead if you wanted to. But nice look overall. You can see that we've got a series of different tie downs that are available there, and you can build things out as necessary. So we've got our 4 main tie downs, and then right along the very side there, let me get you back there. So we've got our 4 tie downs there. Now this specific one doesn't have the window in the back, but we do have the option for a manual window for that back as well. So it would just be positioned there. Obviously this one doesn't, oh, crazy. But this one obviously doesn't have it. Now let's hop back inside of this. Beautiful. So this is going to be the standard look for the XLT. Obviously, if you're in the XL or the Lariat, it will look a little bit different. But we've got our unlock and our lock button. Handle there. We've got a nice metallic highlight that follows all the way throughout the dash as well. Nice Ranger badge there, which we'll get to in a second. But along the driver's side door, we've got our basic window buttons. We can kill off power to those rear windows. We've got a little bit of storage space along both the driver and the passenger side. Adjusting the seats might be a manual or a power process, depending on which version of the vehicle you're in. This is the XLT, so the XL, XLT are going to be a manual adjust, but it's really straightforward to do it. We've got our lumbar support, so 2-way lumbar. We can lift the seat up or down. We can adjust the backrest, and then we can slide the seat forwards or backwards, just using the little bar in between our legs. Then as you saw earlier underneath the hood, we just give that a pull. Just to the left-hand side of the steering wheel, we can turn our fog lamps on or off, adjust our running lamps, increase or decrease the brightness of the cluster screen. We can turn on our bed lighting there as well. The steering wheel is going to be a manual telescoping, so just drop down and adjust as necessary. And then this is where we go to in order to adjust our side view mirrors. And this is probably one that catches people off guard all the time. It's, how do I adjust the side view mirrors? It's right there. So pretty straightforward. We just kind of flick this out as necessary. It's got 3 individual positions. So left side, middle is nothing, and then you've got your right side there as well. We would have the option for power folding mirrors if we're in the Lariat trim level of the vehicle. But let's hop inside. Here we go. All right, so I've already got the seat set up for somebody who's 6 feet tall. I'm 6 feet tall, and I've got a great amount of foot space, good amount of knee space. Up overhead, I've got about 3 inches of head space there, but I still have the flexibility of moving the seat down. So, oh, the manual crank. So as we crank this thing down all the way, it's still going. This is ridiculous. Okay, so with the seat down all the way, oh, that's ridiculous. I'm gonna say probably like 7 inches, like 6-7 inches of headspace there, which like that's mind blowing. So if you're a little bit taller, you'll probably be able to fit inside of the Ranger, no problem. Just gonna crank this seat up to make it a little bit easier for the back when I get into that second row. All right, here we go. Really nice. But taking a peek at the steering wheel, so that metallic highlight that we saw along the door follows through part of the dash, all the way throughout, even throughout the Sync 3 media screen. And then we've got that same highlight all throughout the steering wheel as well. So it looks fairly sharp. We've got our Ford badge right along the middle of the steering wheel, typical Ford styling there. Now, you're gonna have a different look for your Ranger just depending on, well, it's gonna look roughly the same, but you'll have a few different options depending on which packages you've got. So along the very bottom here, we've got our base cruise control setting. So we do have the option for the adaptive cruise control system. You need the added technology package in order to get that, but we've at least got our basic cruise control. Now from there, series of other options. So we've got a pad that's going to let us adjust what's going on with the little cluster screen. We've got our bass volume buttons, change between songs and radio stations, and then we've got a few other options available here. So answer, hang up on a phone call. We've got a voice command prompt as well, and then a few other ones. But if you're looking for a fuller walk around on how to use the steering wheel buttons in the instrument cluster, or even using the Sync 3 media screen to hook up Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, check down in the description. I've put together a comprehensive video that covers all of that stuff off. But let's look at some other highlights. Stick on the left-hand side, that's going to be our regular turning stick, but we've got a button on the very tip of that stick, and that's going to turn our lane keeping system on or off. Stick on the right-hand side is going to let us control what's going on with our windshield wipers. Got a little storage tray over top there, and it is removable, maybe? I'm like, will it lift up? Okay, it looks like it may lift up. It kind of feels like there's a clip holding it down there, but I'm actually going to start this thing up for a second, just so you can see some basic highlights of that Sync Media screen. So this is the Sync 3 screen that was also found inside of the 2021 Ranger. So no differences between the 21 or the 22 model there. So we're still on Sync 3, which does support wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Or sorry, wired Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. So if your vehicle doesn't have navigation, like this one doesn't, we can still connect through our phones. So Apple gives us Google Maps, Apple Maps, or Waze, versus Android Auto is strictly going to be Waze. But because this one doesn't have factory nav, you can see it there, no option for nav. It would show up just as another button along the very bottom if you had it. We've got audio, different options for climate control, which we've got some climate settings down, but we can also adjust along the very top there. We can connect phones very easily, different options for our apps, and then a series of different settings as well that are available. So a lot of different options that are available inside of this thing. But as we start to move down, we've got a volume rocker, which, I mean, we kind of have to. So we can tune a few different ways. We can move in here, we can tune this way, we can press the voice command prompt. 94.9 FM.
Tuning to FM 94.9.
All right, so as you can see there, voice in order to change the gear, in order to change the station. All right, so amazing song, amazing band, but amazing sound. And this is just the base 6-speaker audio system available in the Ranger. You've got different options available depending on which trim level of the vehicle that you're in, but that sound is pretty dang nice for a base stock system. We can change between songs, radio stations, play or pause. We do have the option for dual zone climate control inside of this as well. We can adjust our fan speed and some other base climate control settings. Moving down, we also do have, let me get this out of your way. There we go. So we do have two 12-volt power points down there. And then you can also make it out, two USB ports along the very back side there as well. So two regular USB. We've got our trailer mode as well as our traction control system that we can toggle on or off as well. We don't have the option for wireless charging inside of this thing, unfortunately, but one thing you might notice that's missing is the button that should be there, and that's the auto start stop. So we do have the flexibility of getting rid of that auto start stop system directly at time of ordering from the factory. Moving down from there, because this is the 4x4 Ranger, we do have the option of easily selecting what mode we're in there. So 4 low, 4 high versus 2 high. Depending on the version of the Ranger you're in here, let me drop you down a teeny, a little bit more, and zoom you in a little bit. There we go. So there might be a little button there that says TM. That's our terrain management system. So we would have the flexibility of adjusting what mode we're in as we go. You will find that in the FX4 package of the vehicle as well, which is a nice thing. From there, we've got our shifter. So we've got our park reverse neutral drive into our sport mode. And then we've got the flexibility of adjusting what gear we're in. So just to the left-hand side of the shifter, we've got our plus minus buttons there. We've got a few cup holders there. We've also got this little storage compartment. So we can just lift this bad boy up. A little bit of storage in there. So as you can see, I'm about half of my arm deep. Lots of space. And as we move up from there, so we've got our manual dimming rear view mirror. So adjust from there. Hello. And up a little bit more, we've got our base cabin control lights. Typical Ford styling. We do also have our sunglasses holder, visor with our business card holder, vanity mirror that also has, hello, no built-in light on this specific one. Extending this thing out though is going to block anything, like, and then some that's potentially hitting our eyes. Definitely gets a pass. That's always a nice thing when that happens. But feature styling wise inside of this thing is fantastic. I did mention with the seats, we've got a few different options that are available. So we've got a few color choices, but more importantly, we've got the option of either a cloth versus a leather seat. And the leather you're strictly going to get inside of the Lariat. But you've also got the option for something aftermarket, so cat skin seats, so rather essentially just like a seat cover instead for a leather seat. If you want that option, you could technically just look at the XLT and just get the cat skins aftermarket instead. So you've got quite a few options available. But looking at the base highlights there, we've got that nice metallic look, door handle there, which matches what's going on with the vents there. As we move across, we've got this fantastic looking Ranger badge along the side. We've also got a lockable glove box there as well, so we would just use our key in order to be able to lock as necessary. I mean, the base styling inside of this is really nice. Let's go check out the second row. Oh, beautiful day. This is so nice. All right, and hopping into the second row. So very similar styling to that first row door. We've got our nice metallic highlights there throughout. Our unlock lock button. base window control, and a little bit of storage space along the door. That's the same for both the driver and the passenger side. Now the seats are nice. Now this, obviously the SuperCrew configuration means that we've got a nice amount of space back here. If you were in the SuperCab, so we'd lose a little bit of space for that second row. So it's a teeny bit tight. Like if you've ever been in the backseat of a Mustang, it's pretty close to that. Not exactly the same, but very close at the same time. But we've got a series of options available there. As you can see, we've got some cup holders. So we've got some bottle holders on the door, some cup holders there, and then these. So the headrests, we don't actually have the button along the headrest there, unfortunately. So if we want to fold this seat down, we just crank this tab up, but as you can see there, we're running into a little bit of a problem. So what we have to do is just push this button along the side, and we can crank this whole headrest out very simply. But I mean, it would be nice if we had that foldable headrest. It's just not there as an available option, unfortunately. But you saw there, it's easy enough to take these headrests out if we need the extra space. We also have our tether points. So if we've got front-facing, rear-facing child seats, we can lock down as necessary there. Then you can also make it out. We've got our jack stand as well as our white spigot. So a spigot if we ever need to use a jerry can to fill up, and then if we're changing our tire out ourselves. And then one of the cool things, so along the seat on the very bottom there, we've got another little tab. We just have to pull that. And this thing, we just have to give it a little bit of a push up in order to lock it into place there. We pull again in order to release, but I'll do that in a second. So you can see we've got a little storage tray, both sides. And then just behind the armrest there, we also do have a little storage space as well as a 12-volt power point. So not a ton of stuff back here, like no controls for the cabin or anything like that outside of the cabin control light up overhead, but it is nice and simple in the second row. And then pull in order to drop down. Now, I did mention, so I'm 6 feet tall, and with the driver's seat at somebody 6 feet tall, I still have a nice amount of knee space, good amount of foot space. And then up overhead in the second row, with me sitting fully upright, I've got just about 3 inches of headspace there. So it is a nice amount of space in the second row of the Ranger. This spacing is obviously because of the SuperCrew configuration. The SuperCab, it'd be like really tight back here. I could still do it, I just wouldn't want to have to sit back here. But if you need the extra bed space, you have to go for the SuperCab configuration. A few other basic things to point out. We do have our assist handles there. We've got a hook along both the driver and the passenger side with the assist handle. And then we've also got our clickable light along the top. So we can toggle that thing on or off as necessary. But like I said, features, styling wise is nice. The amount of cushion in the seat in the second row is actually kind of nice. But the seats are locked into place otherwise. Like we can't recline them, slide the second row seats forwards or backwards whatsoever. It is nice that we can easily remove those headrests though, if we need to fold this whole thing flat. So like I said, no buttons along either seat, and then, or either headrest in the second row. And then we do also have the option, I mentioned it outside, for that for that sliding rear window. Unfortunately, this one doesn't have it, but it is available there as an option, which is definitely a nice thing. But I love it. I love the nice styling inside of this. Nice simple cab inside of this one. Really nice. Now, that was a pretty quick look at the 2022 Ford Ranger, going through some of the basics, and I hope you learned a couple things. I'm trying to slow things down a tiny little bit. It's actually a little bit more challenging than you might think, so I am working on it, but I hope you learned a thing or two. As I mentioned, if you do want a little bit more information about how to use the steering wheel, the cluster screen, or that Sync 3 media screen, check down in the description below. I am working on some other videos comparing different Ford trucks. I have already done one looking at the F-150 versus the Ranger. There's going to be a few others coming up as well. So make sure you hit that subscribe button if you want to see those videos. And if you enjoyed this one, give it a thumbs up, share it with your social networks. This is nice. So let's go for one last little walk around before we sign off here. I love it. Nice look there. 2.3 engine is powerful. Now, there are rumblings that the Ranger's getting a little bit of a refresh as well. So whether you go for the Ranger this year or you wait is going to depend on you. Do you need a car? Can you wait for a car? Your choice. But we've got this thing available. You've got the Maverick as an available option, which is smaller, less towing capacity. Now, payload is another thing. So I mentioned the towing capacity up to 7,500 pounds. Payload inside of this thing is going to range. It's all over the place. But I want to show you something. So this specific one has a payload rating. So we look at the side door there, 1,537, so 1,537 pounds. So Ranger payload is going to be all over the place, but that's the way that this one is. So full build link is down below, and I'll have all the other details showing up in the description. And on top of that, if you have any questions, you want to bounce some ideas off of me, reach out in the comments section below. Share this with your social networks if you enjoyed it. And until I see you next time, take care.